Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another edition of the Top Podcast. We're juiced up. It's been long weeks, might I add. Felt like I had another spring break. Dan had his spring break. Now we're going into the summertime, Dan, and your kids are gonna be out of school and you're gonna be working. So, Dan, let's get right into it. Let's waste no time. We'll exchange pledge release later. We talked on the phone earlier today. We've caught up in life. Dan, hot topic number one. What Georgia game from last season that was the one that stressed you out the most?
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer, and if there's anybody who watching right now, I believe they're going to agree with me. The game from last year that stressed me out the most was a Missouri game, and I know that for whatever reason, playing in Missouri has been kind of a place where we have struggled at times for University of Georgia. And we were the number one team in the country going into Missouri last year. And it should have been a game just like every other game, pretty much for the most part. We should have been able to walk in, whip their butt, and come home healthy and not even have a problem. That's not at all how it played out. That game came down to the wire. We were losing the entire game, couldn't get anything going. And we ended up having to win. It was 26-22 is the final score of that game. Nothing was pretty about that game. It did not go well, but the boys rallied and pulled it out. But for me, it's a no-brainer. Harrison, last year was the Missouri game. You guys, I think, probably muted me that game. I'm fairly certain you guys didn't talk to me for like 4 more days after that game.
That was definitely a crazy game. John said check mic settings, so I did. I just changed it over. Hopefully that did not sound too bad. Hopefully we got the juice up intro. But yeah, for me, Dan, I'm gonna have to go Ohio State. I mean, that game was crazy. I always had I don't know why, just a sixth sense of me said that Georgia was gonna come back and beat Missouri. I wasn't really worried. I mean, yeah, Georgia wasn't playing well, and I mean everybody knew it. So like, oh my God, are they gonna lose? But I just had a feeling like, okay, one score and Georgia's back in this. But Ohio State, I mean, there was a whole third quarter where it felt like Georgia was gonna lose that football game. I mean, it felt like a rerun of the Georgia-Alabama SEC championship. That's just what it felt like on my side of things. That's what it felt like. It just felt like the whole third quarter, right after Ohio State scored right before halftime, I was like, oh, man, here we go again. Georgia's going to lose by 2 scores, and everyone's going to think it was a blowout. And really, it wasn't. That was it. That was it for me. Dan, hot topic number 2. What current athlete will make you stop whatever you're doing, no matter what part of your day you're in, you're going through, and you're going to go sit down and watch?
We spoke on the phone a little bit earlier, and I gave this one away, and you knew it right away. For me, it's a no-brainer. If Jonathan's watching, he knows who I'm about to say. It's Acuna Jr. Ronald Acuna Jr. is the most exciting player that we have in baseball right now. And I know there's probably guys that may be better, but he is incredible. He's electric. Everything he does is electric. And there's so many people in the Atlanta market that hate him for whatever reason. And I don't get it. I don't get the hate for Ronald Acuna Jr. Like, because he doesn't play the game like he was born in 1964. I mean, come on, guys. He's young. He's exciting. Like today, and I was telling you this in the car, a ball's hit down the right field line, and the guy rounds first, and almost everybody in the league goes for 2 right there. He picks up the ball, and the guy throws on the brakes, and he points to second base. He's like, go, run, go. And the guy doesn't have to run, and then Ronald covers his eyes like, I won't look. I mean, he's just having so much fun. He's electric. I love watching him play. For me, it's Acuna Jr. There's a lot of really, really, really good guys. But yeah, Acuna is just so much fun. And we don't have any sound from Harrison because he's muted.
Still trying to get back into this. Jonathan says cliche answer would be Tiger Woods. Acuna would for sure be the current answer. I'm going to go with a basketball answer here. I think watching Luka Doncic play basketball is okay. Maybe it's not the best team basketball, but individually, Luka Doncic is fun to watch. I don't like watching him on defense.
Because he doesn't play defense,
unless it's the playoffs, in which case he may give you 50% of his energy on defense. But hey, I think Tiger, probably a good answer here, even though I'm not at the mental age of 50 yet, Jonathan, to go sit down on the couch and watch golf. But I'm sure that's you're getting there anyways. But yeah, Acuna's a great answer. I don't want to have the same answer as Dan. We try and keep it different because everybody has their own opinion. So I wouldn't want to go Acuna here, but yeah, if I had to say someone, I would definitely be Luka. I kind of felt I wasn't a big I didn't like Kevin Durant after he went to the Warriors. Kind of lost my respect there. But man, was I amazed last night with some of the shots he makes. Just just looks so effortlessly. Like he knows everybody's smaller with him, but every shot he takes, it's like, man, that looks like it can go in. But yeah, I think Doncic is probably the basketball player today. I'd sit down and watch nonetheless. Dan, rant of the week. It's been a while. Been 4 weeks. I don't even know if we had a rant in the last show. So everybody's fired up to hear it, Dan. Old man Dan, back on the mic. What do you got this week?
So this one's easy for me. And if you've ever followed me on any type of social media for the longest time, my friends give me the hardest time about my rants about traffic. I can't stand traffic, and I drive so much for work. I'm constantly driving. It's like I had to work at the Village for a while, which is right across the street from where the Brave Stadium is. If you know where I live, that's like a 2-hour drive every single day. I was making that every day. Every single day you drive, there's probably borderline 100 accidents on the way to work. Not to mention the 50 that have already happened. And it's because people are stupid. People are so dumb. I cannot sit there in traffic and watch people. You got people eating, you got people texting, you got people drinking. Smoking weed. You got people smoking weed in the damn car with the windows down. They don't give a shit. It's just whatever. But it's simple. It's even that you can just boil it down to simple things. If it's 2 lanes, right? I'm not talking about like a 2-lane, like one going each way. I'm talking about 2 in the same direction. The left lane is for passing or driving really fast. The right lane is for going the speed limit or whatever. But there's so many people that just get in that lane and they go slow. And then you have the people that have to go back and forth because the people won't get out the damn way. And the worst people are the ones who go the same speed as somebody else. And then merging. When one lane ends and you merge like you're like a deck of cards. It's like one after another. Nope. You got to go 3 and make this person sit there. Or everybody sees the sign that says the lane is ending. And, okay, so I'm going to go all the way up to the very front because my time is more valuable than everybody else's. And then I'm going to try to swerve in the last second. Or there's a right-hand turn lane, but they're wanting to go straight. So they fly all the way down the right-hand turn lane and try to swerve in the last second and take somebody out. Oh, my God. Just traffic drives me effing crazy. I sit in it every single day. If people would just obey common courtesy and traffic etiquette, we could all make it to work on time every single day. Instead, because people are idiots and they don't know how to drive, we have to sit in traffic all freaking day. I mean, I spend 4 hours a day in traffic. It's complete bullshit. I freaking hate people on the road. Yeah, Jeremiah, I am an angry driver.
Oh my God. Dan, you sent yourself on the F-bomb. I was like, oh my God, are we going to get through a Dan rant without anything being dropped? But hey, I ain't mad about it. Dan's talking about traffic. And I just want to say, Dan, you can tell I've not lived in a big city for a while because you're over here ranting on 2-lane highways. Dude, I rant on 6-lane highways. That is where I feel like I'm going to die. So I lived on the 2-lane highways. I loved them back in my hometown. They are, that is calm. I can drive in that. 6 lanes now, still adjusting to it. So I'm surprised you went with the 2 lane instead of the 6 lane.
6 lanes gives you options. I mean, I could turn the 6-lane highway into Talladega. You know what I'm saying? Like I can work with 6 lanes, except for in Atlanta, you can't drive anywhere. But when it's only 2 lanes going the same direction, there's always 2 people that fuck it up for everybody else. And I just dropped the F-bomb, but I don't care. It is what it is. And don't get me started. Oh, you got that right. Atlanta traffic is not for the weak. Not at all. So
I learned that quickly. Dan, G-Day, what everyone's here to talk about. Man, G-Day, I don't know about you, Dan, but G-Day feels like it was a week ago already. Like, holy crap, has this week gone by slow for me so far? And it's everybody's favorite topic. It's what everybody's talking about right now. It's what the national media is talking about right now. If they're talking about Georgia, which they may or may not be doing. Quarterback battle. Is it a battle? Is it even fair to say it's a battle? I mean, Carson Beck came into the spring as I won't say the clear favorite. I will say he was the favorite to win the job. And I mean, up until G-Day, it felt like he was still holding that lead. Whether or not he was extending that lead or even maybe losing part of the lead to Brock Vandergriff and Gunnar Stockton, hard to tell. I mean, you had multiple media reports talking about how he kind of struggled in some practices, had a rough first scrimmage, but then came back and looked like the guy. I mean, Dan, we talked about it on the phone. This kid is a gamer at heart. And I don't know if I've seen it. Is there a quarterback out there that isn't a gamer these days?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of quarterbacks who are not gamers. I can show you a bunch of them.
Elite ones,
But
I should say.
well, I mean, that's what makes you an elite. Being able to play when it matters. That's what makes you an elite quarterback. I think Carson Beck is, you know, I think there was some slander thrown his way for whatever reason. I have no idea when he first got to Georgia that maybe he wasn't that great or whatever. The guy's done a tremendous job of being in the program, working his butt off, being patient, keeping his mouth shut, not being a distraction, being a great team guy. And obviously, he's gotten significantly better. Every time I see him throw the ball, I mean, uh, there was never the argument that Stetson had a better arm than Carson Beck. That was never what was being said. So, the arm was never the issue. His mobility was kind of an issue, but he looked like he could move very well in the pocket. And, we all know, listen, cut the bull crap, right? We all know the whole is close. It's a battle every day. That's to make sure that everybody stays, right? We know that. Kirby's not going to come out and say, "Hey, Beck's my guy. We're rolling with Beck," because he wants everybody to stay. But I think anybody with a set of eyes, anybody with common sense knows that this is Beck's job, unless he does something absolutely ridiculous to blow it, right? Which could happen, or an injury, right? But I think this is Beck's job. I think Beck, you, me, Jonathan, Jeremiah, we all had a conversation a while ago where it was, after Stetson became the full-time starter and he didn't have to look back, right? And we knew it was his job and nobody else's job. And was there ever a time where you're like, upset about a deficiency of Stetson? And the answer to that was no. We all had a resounding, like we thought about it, was like really no. So how could you be better, right? Because the guy just won back-to-back national championships, and he was, at least to us, almost flawless, right? There was no attribute of his where we were really upset, like his arm wasn't good enough, his feet weren't good enough. Maybe he made some questionable decisions, but even those kind of went away. But just a tiny part of me thinks that Beck has a chance to be even better. And I know that's absurd. I get it. We're talking about a quarterback that just won back-to-back national titles, who didn't have any glaring deficiencies, but other than maybe his height. But I really think Beck has a chance to be better.
It's definitely interesting. I see the conversation around Stetson Bennett. Everyone's kind of talking about him, and it's a very similar comparison, although they are very different players. But everyone's, when I see Stetson Bennett talked about, and then talking about passing the torch to Carson Beck, I wonder if this is going to be another thing where, Dan, for Georgia, when you look back in 10 years, where Stetson Bennett becomes Alabama's version or Georgia's version of Alabama's A.J. McCarron. Like the guy that got the train rolling, but as you progress, the quarterback just kept getting better. And yes, I am throwing some hints here. There is a lot of smoke that Georgia may get a really highly rated quarterback in recruiting in the 2024 class. But I wonder if that's what this is going to develop into, whether Beck is the guy to kind of make Stetson Georgia's A.J. McCarron. Like, hey, Stetson was a good quarterback, but we've only gotten better since he left, type deal. So I agree with Jeremiah here. Jeremiah says, and I quote, while I have constantly said Beck will start, I do think it has been competition. And I think every position, well, I don't want to come off as coach speak here, but every position is a competition. But were they really looking to crown a starter, or were they in the back of the mind saying, we're giving everybody a shot to do it. And from reports of practice reps being split, it would tell you that there was a competition. Now,
Well,
Carson definitely had the upper hand there because he would get more snaps, but because he earned that right. It comes back to the fact that he was the vet in the room.
so I
And
think the
Dan,
only
what's the
reason that,
philosophy at Georgia with
well,
vets?
it's you got to win, right? Well, no, the vets get the first crack, right? Whatever. But I think the only reason this is a competition is because Vandergriff is very good, right? I think it's 100% Beck's job to lose. But I think the only reason that there was any competition is because Vandergriff is very, very good. So to Jeremiah's point, yes, it's a competition, but it's not a competition because they were looking to give the job to somebody else. I think it's a competition because Beck played so well, or Vandergriff played so well that they had to keep giving him opportunities. I think if he were a lesser quarterback, very early in the camp, it could have been a one horse race, right? But I think it's because it's very, very talented. So you may proceed, sir.
Kind of next point here, Dan. Just talking about G Day in general and performances in general. I mean, what kind of stood out to you? You can go with quarterbacks here. We got some notes in here about kind of some specific throws, specific plays that are highlights for us. I know where you're probably. I know you're gonna bring it up because you said it pre-show, Dan. There was one guy in your mind when you looked at the stat sheet. You're like, wow. Dan, I'm gonna let you go. Starts with an S. His name starts with an S.
Yeah, I have no idea
Savon
who you're
Clark.
talking about. Oh,
Savon
well,
Clark.
yeah, he didn't really put up any numbers. I just had a chance to cover Savion Clark when he was at Dawson County High School. And so every time he gets the chance to do anything, I'm like, there's my boy. And you guys are probably tired of me doing that because he's not really done anything significant at Georgia, but he was a hell of a high school player. And it meant a lot to him to go to the University of Georgia. So any chance he gets to do anything, I get really excited for him. But, listen, he's at the University of Georgia in the backfield, actually gets in the game. So the way I look at it is if a kid like that had gone to Duke, he'd be starting and you would know exactly who he is. So I'm not picking at Duke. I just first thing that came to my head. Okay. So yeah, but general observations for me. I didn't go back and rewatch it. Like I said, I was going to do Harrison. I apologize. I'm a bad fan. I've just been so damn busy. And honestly, that's why we haven't been doing the shows is because I blame Harrison for everything. Because he's a little kid and he'll just take it. But it's been my fault. My schedule has been absolute bonkers. And it's going to get worse through the summer because Cannon is doing a lot of different stuff right now. And now Berkeley's doing a lot of different stuff. So it's all on me. If we miss the show, guys, it is Dan Kiley's fault. You can blame me. Harrison is ready to go. So I didn't get a chance.
Dan. We'll see.
So
I'll need
anyway,
my days too, sir.
My general observation is in the first half, I think they really scripted it to where the offense was going to have a lot of success. In the second half, they tightened up and let the defense roll. But, again, it doesn't matter who you listen to. Everybody coming into this game told you, and it's the same for every school. It's going to be very vanilla. They're not going to do anything fancy. They may throw a trick play here or there just for fun. But they're not trying to give away any industry secrets. And my biggest takeaway, and this is so lame, but this is where my mindset is right now. My biggest takeaway is they went out there, they competed. Everybody is healthy. Nobody was significantly injured. Everybody made it through spring relatively healthy, and that is not always a given, boys. That is not always a given. So we are healthy, and they did not beat the heck out of their stars. I mean, we kind of joked before the spring practice started is they could put some guys in bubble wrap and not even let them take a snap, and I'd be completely fine with that. So we got through it. Everybody's healthy. The offense looked good. We knew the defense wasn't going to look great because they're limited in what they can do. There's not blitzing or anything like that. And we'll talk about maybe some defensive guys here in a second, but I just thought that it was good to see Rosemary Jack Saint make a couple plays. Obviously that throw to Bowers was incredible, right? That was a great pass. I think Brock didn't do what's his face, the new tight end from Norcross.
Lawson Lucky.
Yeah, he didn't do Lawson Lucky any favors. I think he put him in a couple spots where he got whacked. But I think Lawson Lucky's gonna be really good. I thought Delp looked good. Everybody that was supposed to look good looked good. AJ Harris looked good. So um, again, my general take is that we got through that damn thing healthy, and I am excited. And I left really excited.
It's been a while since Georgia's had a spring where they haven't had a major star go down or a star go down. And speaking of tight ends, Dan, I mean, I did go back and watch a little bit of it. I mean, shoot, I did see a little bit of there's been some hype around Oscar Delp, and rightfully so. Oscar Delp is a stud, is going to be a stud. He's the future of the tight end room beyond Bowers. But I didn't think Georgia was going to, as everyone's talked about, losing Darnell, you lose in an elite blocker, like a blocker at the highest levels. Everyone says Michael Mayer is the top tight end prospect in the draft. Well, yes, he is all around probably the top prospect in this draft, but there is no better blocker at tight end than Darnell Washington, and that's going to affect Georgia's offense in a way. But I saw Oscar Delp blocking some DNs there. I saw it. I think a lot of people saw it. Not saying he's as good as Darnell, but it was a good sign of like, hey, Georgia's not really going to rewrite the wheel of how they get into some of these, run schemes. They're still going to trust their guys to go out there and make plays and block some DNs. That was a good sign. And Jonathan wrote an article on this guy, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention him. Mekhi Muse. Holy crap, Dan. He led the black team in receiving.
Well, on one catch. Fair.
Yeah.
You know what? That guy could fly. He made a lot of people miss, but he runs funny. Does he not run funny? Like even when they showed the views, he's like kind of like running like a penguin. It was like, but he's so damn fast. I had no idea he went to Central Gwinnett, which is basically my backyard. I had no idea.
4 catches for 91 yards, and I mean, playing a role in special teams was like, that's what really got my attention. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I didn't know his name. When I saw 87 out there, I don't know about y'all, I was like, who? Like, who's that? And I think one of us put it in chat, like, who's 87?
Hell, that might have been me.
So, I mean, that's a good sign. And you always, I mean, Georgia has had that, 1 or 2 receivers that have gone out and stepped up in the spring game and showed out and really got some hype. I know everyone want to talk about Zeed Haynes coming into the spring. He had a catch for 28 yards. I want to see more of him. I want to see more of all these freshmen. But to me, Dan, speaking of injuries, we talked about it a little bit. You talked about it there. I mean, Georgia didn't have a big injury. And Kirby Smart post game singled out a player that was healthy and even got a touchdown, a rushing touchdown, albeit Arian Smith. Now, obviously, this is probably didn't get the touches that Georgia fans probably wanted, but hey, that's just something you kind of keep away. You put away. You don't need Arian Smith out there running, the streaks and running the deep post. Like, we don't need to show it. I mean, yes, people have seen it, opponents have seen it, but I love the usage there on the jet sweep on the goal line. Like, why have we not done that before with him?
What? Hold on, time out. You're not even talking about the most important thing. Did you see him blocking on the outside run? He stuck his nose in there and blocked. I was like, oh my God, don't get hurt. That was my first thing. And then the second thing was like, he actually did a good job. So, I don't. I have a love-hate relationship with Arian Smith because I think he could be an amazing football player. It's just every time he does anything, he gets hurt. Like, we were watching the game over at our friend's house, the national championship game, and he made that catch. I'm like, oh, well, that means he's got to get hurt next catch. But yeah, I mean, he did a great. The one guy I was kind of excited to see out there was Tyler Williams, and I had no reason to be excited to see him except for Buck Blue talked him up a lot in the offseason. So I was interested to see what he would look like out there. I mean, it's not like he lit the world on fire yet, but he did have 5 catches for 16 yards. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 targets, 2 catches for 16 yards. Harrison sent me the stats. So, there's a lot of really good young players. I was interested to see what Roderick Robinson looked like. Now, Brooks kind of tempered our enthusiasm on that, saying that they were not going to run the ball a lot. And then when they did, it was just kind of, to keep the clock going. So I'm excited to see him. And we knew how beat up that Georgia running back room was in the spring. And they're all out there getting healthy. Kendall Milton, there was no reason to get him out there. We know exactly who he is. So he took the entire spring to heal and get healthy. And I mean, listen, it's the same old story. And if you've been on Twitter at all this week, you know that there was a big back and forth between Kendall's dad and one of a Georgia fan because he said that he thought Broderick Robinson was going to be what Kendall isn't or whatever. So, listen, I love Kendall Milton. I think he is a hell of a running back. You know, the God's honest truth is the guy just hasn't been able to stay healthy, right? And that I don't think that's his fault. And some guys are just injury. I don't even want to call him injury prone. It's just he's just been injured, and I think
it's bad luck.
It's just bad luck, right? But I think if he could stay healthy this year, I think he really is that talented, right? And Kendall really, to me, is the type of back you could feed him, and I think he's the type of back that will get better by more work. There are certain type of backs that are like that. The more you feed them, the better they get in the depth of the game. Unfortunately for him, he's been injured, and also Georgia has had superstars everywhere at the running back position. So there wasn't the number of carries maybe he necessarily needed. So we didn't get to see that in the spring, but we did get to see Roderick Robinson run the ball. Maybe I anticipate him being a little bit flashier, you know, like maybe have a little bit more speed. I knew he looked like a bowling ball, but I heard he had like elite top end speed. We didn't get to see that, maybe by design. But I do think that running back room is in really, really good hands.
Absolutely. Let's transition to the defense real quick because we do know we got a doubleheader tonight with the Classic City Sports podcast. Dan, just a couple of notes on defense. Not really much to watch defensively because we don't get the all 22 glory view of what this defense can do and really what the receivers can do. I mean, you didn't have Smil Mondon out there. You didn't have Michael Williams. Obviously, both scratches due to injuries, and you want to get those guys healthy. But it was good to see a guy like Xavier Story out there. Really good to see him. And I did want to mention, Brooks put this out on Twitter. Brooks Austin over on Twitter, patreon.com/Bush Austin. Jamon Dumas Johnson, I know we've seen a lot of them. We saw him all last year, but Brooks brought up a good point. I didn't realize it until I saw the photo that Brooks took. That dude looks lean and mean. Lean and mean.
Sideline to sideline.
That's exactly what it was. So that's a good sign. I want to see Smilmon out there. You know, we heard Kirby in the spring come out publicly and said he challenged those two guys to bring that same fire and same intensity and same competitiveness to the practice field because apparently they weren't living up to what they showed last year, which is a good sign that they have since responded and they went out there and practiced the way they did and held up to the standard. So for me, Dan, you know, I will really – I don't want to put this comparison on them because I don't really know where Xavier Story is going to fit in the defense, but I'm hoping that this is kind of another year where Georgia has three really good linebackers that they can just use all over the field. I mean, a.k.a. Nakobe Dean, Channing Tindall, and Quay Walker. Mm-hmm. Those three guys all got drafted and all played big snaps.
Well, I think you know how talented they are because you have really talented guys leaving because they can't get on the football field, like Ryan Davis entering the transfer portal. And we'll hit the portal for just a second in a minute, but you know, a bunch of guys leaving, and you know that's because there's so much talent in the field. The one guy who caught my eye was AJ Harris. I went in looking to see what he was going to look like. I mean, it's obviously easier to see what perimeter guys look like because they stand out, but overall, I think the defense was kind of handicapped really severely by the way the spring game is designed to be. So it's hard to take a lot out of it. Offensive, defensive line is really hard to evaluate that when you're just watching TV. So, but I thought the offensive line obviously looked good.
Yeah, and yeah, as you said, the spring game format isn't very nice to the defense because obviously there is no balance. It is, you know, the offense can pass the ball 9 times out of 10, but really it's two-hand touch football of the quarterback. So it's like we don't want to get too far upfield, and even if we do, you know, you can't go all out. So that's just how it is with spring games. But Dan, we've been away for 4 weeks. We know it. We're back, guys, and we're here to stay. So with that being said, I do want to plug next week's show because I got to talk to Dan, and I got to talk to We got a special guest coming on to give you all coverage of the NFL draft. We'll talk some Falcons. We will talk the Bulldogs, especially because Georgia could have another great night, 3 nights, I should say, with the NFL draft. Dan, we may do a two-week episode. We may do 2 episodes next week. We got to see our schedule with not only Dan, but the co-host as well, or the special guest as well, to see when we can do it. We may have a pre-tape show and then go into our regular live Georgia content. We will wait and see. I will be on hand in Kansas City for the NFL draft next weekend or next week. So hit your boy up if you got any
questions. Flex on
him. hit me up if you got any questions for the prospects. We'll try and give you some coverage there. Obviously, hopefully George will have some prospects there for some press conferences. But with that being said, guys, go head over to the Classic Sports Podcast. They are live a minute into the show, hopefully just getting into their intros. We're not going too over. Guys, that's Dan Kiley. I'm Harrison Reno. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, maybe even TikTok here in a little bit. We'll see. We got some things down the pipe. Guys, thank you for joining us tonight. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Go Dogs!